In this video, I'm going to explain how perfect spectrums are not perfect, and why much of the metadata we are looking at for Chromie Squiggles is imprecise. Before we begin though, I want to say, for many, including myself, Snowfro stands as a hero, a guiding star within generative art. It's with the utmost respect and profound gratitude that I embark on this exploration today. While I may offer a different perspective or challenge some aspects of the current traits, it is done with humility and in the spirit of mathematical curiosity. This video is not a refutation, but a humble addition, a small footnote in the grand narrative that is Chromie Squiggles. It's well known that perfect spectrums don't appear visually perfect. The leading community hypothesis is that since squiggles are made up of hundreds or thousands of circles, with the code gradually adjusting the position and color of each, it is believed that in the beginning, many of the circles are laying on top of each other, and as such, you can't see the true color of the first circle. After investigating the exact colors of each squiggle, I found that our current trait data is largely inaccurate. This is not simply a visual discrepancy, but an algorithmic one. As a quick example, this slide displays current official trait end color, along with the actual end color of the squiggle. Let's explore how the end hues were incorrectly documented. This video is intended as an introduction to this topic. If you want a deep dive, I encourage you to read my essays, where I explain the math, do a deep dive into the traits, and provide interactive code snippets for you to understand exactly how and why the code runs the way it does. You can find these on squiggledata.com. This is the formula for identifying perfect and full spectrums. Steps times segments divided by color spread. Here's the trait data for Squiggle 1780, and here it is plugged into the formula. Of all the combinations, these are the only three variables that equate to a perfect spectrum. 200 steps, 14 segments, and a color spread of 11 equals 254.54, and after you round up and add 1 for the start color, 56 hues. While this formula is used to identify perfect spectrums, it can be used more broadly to tell us the exact number of hues any squiggle cycles over. This formula is in fact correct, but the variables we are using are all slightly incorrect. Here's why. First, the stated segment data we are using is always one segment too long, and occasionally two segments too long. Similarly, steps, which represent the individual circles that comprise a segment, as you can see here. The trait data listed for steps is in fact always one step shorter than what is actually generated. So this 200 segment squiggle actually has 201 steps per segment. Finally, the color spread. The color spread values we're using are oversimplified. They were rounded down. In reality, there are 254 decimal precise possibilities for color spread. For example, the perfect spectrum we've been looking at has a color spread of 11 listed as a trait. In reality, the spread is 11.529. Here we have the formula with the corrected data, 13 segments, 201 steps, and 11.52 spread equals 226.637. Quite a ways off from the original equations, 254.54. For the next 30 seconds, we are going to get deep into the math, but I promise to pull this full circle into simpler terms if you stick with me. Here's another way to think about this. The start color minus the end color equals 28.44. This number should be the same as 255 minus our corrected number, 226.63775. This equals 2836. They are 0.08673 off. Here's why. This slide has the exact hues the code uses to generate the first 10 circles of the squiggle. Starting at 154, each hue is incremented by 0.08673, the exact difference between our two equations. This is because by definition the start hue, being the first, didn't increment from anywhere, so we need to deduct one increment from our equation, and when we account for this, our values are a perfect match. As I mentioned before, the original formula is correct, and while the formula is correct, the problem is that this combination of variables is impossible. But what if it weren't impossible? What if Squiggle 1780 could have 14 segments, 200 steps, and a color spread of 11? We can easily adjust the code to give this squiggle the original variables to see exactly what it would have looked like if it were actually a perfect spectrum. And here it is. You can see the additional segment and the squiggle is now both visually and algorithmically perfect. As the start and end hues are now within 1 degree of each other, what does all this mean? It means the perfect spectrums we have today are not perfect. Their start and end colors are significantly off from 255, as you can see in the example data below. The original perfect spectrum squiggles still carry exciting and important historical provenance, and one could argue that they are true perfects because they are what was defined by Snowfro to be perfect. And ultimately, this is what truly matters. On the other hand, there are true mathematically perfect squiggles, ones which are both algorithmically and visually perfect, ones that align with the original intent of the trait to capture squiggles that actually display all of the hues exactly once. At the end of the day, Snowfro and the community will decide what to do with this data. The information provides an exciting renaissance of trait discovery, a chapter of squiggle history which I am eager to watch unfold. For those of you who are wondering, there are 36 mathematically correct full and perfect spectrums, 35 fulls, and only 1 perfect. Considering we now have 10 segments, 254 color spreads, and 3-step combinations, we have 7,620 possibilities of hue outputs. Again, a very exciting new world to explore. Of these, only 2 possibilities equal a perfect spectrum. Both of these combinations require 1001 steps, meaning they are fuzzies, which have additional rarity as they are only minted about 10.8% of the time. When we take that into account, the odds of minting a perfect are about 0.00283%, or 1 in 35,336. With those odds, we are lucky to have received even one in this collection. Truly, a squiggle that wasn't meant to be. And by happenstance, it was minted a mere 15.5 hours after Snowfro minted the very first squiggle. A buried treasure waiting years for discovery. Truly, some Indiana Jones shit. In the description, you will find a link to a drive sheet with all of the corrected data for every squiggle. You will also find a link to my website, squiggledata.com. There is a tool on there where you can type in any squiggle ID and it will provide you both the original and corrected trait metadata. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time and welcome feedback on this analysis.